y'all.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hey.
Welcome to Storytime.
Hello, Jeff.
This is so exciting. Yeah, I reckon maybe 40 minutes for the story. It's relatively long, but as I say, I'll
Hey, Charlotte.
probably read it relatively fast. Charlotte here. Charlotte.
I like seeing that Gordon took the instructions very literally, as did I. I have wine, I have a candle.
Oh, but do you have
ready?
Gold star. Gold star for both of you.
Cake.
Oh God, I wish I had proper gallery view on this thing. It's so frustrating having to
It might just be in a different place. What device are you on?
I'm on a phone, so I can only ever see like 4
Someone that I was on a call with
time.
earlier said that on their phone they could get between the two modes by swiping. So try swiping.
I can swipe between multiple like 4 screen galleries, but I can't see everybody all at once. But Zach is recording as we speak, and he's recording on gallery, on the gallery setting until we start. So I'll be able to see all of your lovely faces. Right. I think it's probably everyone here who's going to join us.
Good amount of people here.
Valerie is just connecting at the moment.
Perfect. Right. Oh, I'm a bit nervous.
Got Josh as well with you, Charlotte.
Hey, there's a Trevor and a Shark. Oh my God, everyone's here today. Wow.
Right. Exciting Sunday night activity.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Is everyone catching up on their sleep?
After quarantine ends, right, Frankie?
Hmm?
You're going to keep doing this after quarantine ends, right?
Genuinely,
yes.
Yes. Like maybe not every night once people are, out and about in the world, but like definitely once a week. I'd love to still keep doing this if there's an appetite for it.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Definitely, yeah. Amazing.
You've even got Pablo
Right.
today.
Have we got Pablo? Where?
I
Aww.
need to
Pablo, I mean, and Josh. Josh, that's exciting too. Hi, Josh. Admittedly, it's mostly Pablo that we're all excited about.
We just feel awkward about showing our excitement for Josh, and Pablo's just easier.
That's so true.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
Josh, you're so cute. Look at you, Josh.
Right. I think we're about ready to get started.
Feels good.
I'm so pleased I'm not late. Well, I mean, I'm late, but I'm so pleased that everyone else is late too.
Yeah, we're all late here. Right. Okay. So this is Puss in Boots from The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. Are you all sitting comfortably?
Yeah.
Then I'll begin. Puss in Boots. Figaro here. Figaro there, I tell you. Figaro upstairs, Figaro downstairs, and, oh my goodness me, this little Figaro can slip into my lady's chamber, smart as you like, at any time whatsoever that he takes the fancy for, don't you know? He's a cat of the world, cosmopolitan, sophisticated. He can tell when a furry friend is the missus' best company. For what lady in all the world could say no to the passionate yet toujours discreet advances of a fine marmalade cat? Unless it be her eyes incontinently overflow at the slightest whiff of fur, which happened once, as you shall hear. A Tom, sirs, a ginger Tom, and proud of it. proud of his fine white shirt front that dazzles harmoniously against his orange and tangerine tessellations. Oh, what a fiery suit of lights I have. Proud of his bird-entrancing eye and more than military whiskers. Proud to a fault, some say, of his fine musical voice. All the windows in the square fly open when I break into impromptu song at the spectacle of the moon over Bergamo. If the poor players in the square, the sullen rout of ragged trash that haunts the provinces, are rewarded with a hail of pennies when they set up their makeshift stage and start their raucous choruses, then how much more liberally do the citizens deluge me with pails of the freshest water, vegetables hardly spoiled, and occasionally slippers, shoes, and boots. Do you see these fine, high, shining leather boots of mine? A young cavalry officer made me the tribute of, first one, then, after I celebrate his generosity with a fresh obligato, the moon no fuller than my heart, whoops, I spring nimbly aside, down comes the other. Their high heels will click like castanets when Puss takes his promenade upon the tiles, for my song recalls flamenco. All cats have a Spanish tinge, although Puss himself elegantly lubricates his virile, muscular native Bergamesque with French, because that is the only language in which you can purr. Merci. Instanter, I draw my new boots on over the natty white stockings that terminate my hind legs. That young man, observing with curiosity by moonlight the use to which I put his footwear, calls out, "Hey, Puss, Puss there." "At your service, sir." "Up to my balcony, young Puss." He leans out in his nightshirt, offering encouragement as I swing succinctly up the facade. Forepaws on a curly cherub's pate, hind paws on a stucco wreath. Bring them up to meet your forepaws while first paw forward, hup onto the stone nymph's tit. Left paw down a bit, the satyr's bum should do the trick. Nothing to it once you know how. Rococo's no problem. Acrobatics? Born to them. Puss can perform a back somersault while holding aloft a glass of vino in his right paw and never spill a drop. But, to my shame, the famous death-defying triple somersault en plein air, that is, in middle air, that is, unsupported and without a safety net, I, Puss, have never yet attempted, although I have dashingly brought off the double tour to the applause of all. "You strike me as a cat of parts," says this young man when I'm arrived at his windowsill. I make him a handsome genuflection, rump out, tail up, head down to facilitate his friendly chuck under my chin, and, as an involuntary free gift, my natural, my habitual smile. For all cats have this particularity, each and every one, from the meanest alley sneaker to the proudest, whitest she ever graced a pontiff's pillow. We have our smiles painted on. Those small, cool, quiet Mona Lisa smiles, that smile we must, no matter whether it's been fun or it's been not.
Frankie, your audio is cut out. Can't hear you. What's going on?
Am I back?
Yes.
Wow, but it was kind of flickering between different volumes for about 20 seconds before you finally went, which suggests that it might be maybe a headphones issue rather than a muted or not issue.
Go back a paragraph or so.
We finished the somersault, so I think it's just after that. She said lubricate.
How about now?
A little quiet, but audible.
Talk some more,
For
Frankie.
some reason, it stopped playing through my headphones.
Oh no.
We can still hear you.
Okay, so I'm just going to hope that the battery on my phone lasts, as I have had to unplug it. Right. Okay. Take 2. Where did you hear up to?
Somersaults or thereabouts.
Somersaults or thereabouts.
He'd never attempted the second or the triple somersault, and then he was just being tickled
Okay.
under the chin.
Thanks, guys. Okay, let's try this again. You strike me as a cat of parts, says this young man when I'm arrived at his windowsill. I make him a handsome genuflection, rump out, tail up, head down, to facilitate his friendly chuck under my chin, and, as involuntary free gift, my natural, my habitual smile. For all cats have this particularity, each and every one, from the meanest alley sneaker to the proudest, whitest she that ever graced a pontiff's pillow. We have our smiles, as it were, painted on. Those small, cool, quiet Mona Lisa smiles that smile we must, no matter whether it's been fun or it's been not. So all cats have a politician's air. We smile, and so they think we're villains. But, I note, this young man is something of a smiler himself. A sandwich, he offers, and perhaps a snifter of brandy? His lodgings are poor, though he's handsome enough, and even en déshabille, nightcap and all, there's a neat, smart, dandified air about him. Here is one who knows what's what, thinks I. A man who keeps up appearances in the bedchamber can never embarrass you out of it. And excellent beef sandwiches. I relish a lean slice of roast beef and early learned a taste for spirits, since I started life as a wine shop cat, hunting cellar rats for my keep before the world sharpened my wits enough to let me live by them. And the upshot of this midnight interview? I'm engaged on the spot as Sir's valet de chambre, and from time to time his body servant, for when funds are running low, as they must do for every gallant officer when the pickings fall off, he pawns his quilt, doesn't he? Then faithful Puss curls up on his chest to keep him warm at nights. And if you don't like me to knead his nipples, which out of the purest affection and the desire, ouch, he says, to test the retractability of my claws, I do in moments of absence of mind, then what other valet could slip into a young girl's sacred privacy and deliver her a billet doux at the very moment when she's reading her prayer book with her sainted mother? A task I once or twice performed to him for his infinite gratitude. And, as you will hear, brought him at last to the best of fortunes for us all. So Puss got his post at the same time as his boots, and I dare say the master and I have much in common, for he's proud as the devil, touchy as tin tacks, lecherous as licorice, and, though I say it as loves him, as quick-witted a rascal as ever put on clean linen. When times were hard, I'd pilfer the market for breakfast, a herring, an orange, a loaf. We never went hungry. Puss served him well in the gaming salons too, for a cat may move from lap to lap with impunity and cast his eye over any hand of cards. A cat can jump on the dice. He can't resist to see it roll. Poor thing, mistook it for a bird. And after I've been limp-spined, stiff-legged, playing the silly buggers, scooped up to be chastised, who can remember how the dice fell in the first place? And we had, besides, less gentlemanly means of maintenance when they closed the tables to us, as churlishly they sometimes did. I'd perform my little Spanish dance while he went round with his hat, olé. But he only put my loyalty and affection to the test of this humiliation when the cupboard was as bare as his backside, after, in fact, he'd sunk so low as to pawn his drawers. So, all went right as ninepence, and you never saw such boon companions as Puss and his master, until the man must needs go and fall in love. Head over heels, Puss. I went about my ablutions, tonguing my arsehole with the impeccable hygienic integrity of cats, one leg stuck in the air like a ham bone. I choose to remain silent. Love, What has my rakish master, for whom I've jumped through the window of every brothel in the city, besides haunting the virginal back garden of the convent and God knows what other goatish errands, to do with the tender passion? And she, a princess in a tower, remote and shining as Aldebaran, chained to a dolt and dragon guarded. I withdrew my head from my privates and fixed him with my most satiric smile. I dare him warble on in that strain. All cats are cynics, he opines, quailing beneath my yellow glare. It is the hazard of it draws him, you see. There is a lady sits in a window for 1 hour and 1 hour only at the tenderest time of dusk. You can scarcely see her features. The curtains almost hide her. Shrouded like a holy image, she looks out to the piazza as the shops shut up. The stalls go down, the night comes on. And that is all the world she ever sees. Never a girl in Bergamo so secluded, except on Sundays they let her go to mass, bundled up in black with a veil on. And then she is in the company of an aged hag, her keeper, who grumps along, grim as a prison dinner. How did he see that secret face? Who else but Puss revealed it? Back we come from the tables, so late, so very late at night we found, to our emergent surprise, that all at once it was early in the morning. His pockets were heavy with silver, and both our guts sweetly a-gurgle with champagne. Lady Luck had sat with us. What fine spirits we were in. Winter and cold weather. The pious trot to church already with little lanterns through the chill fog as we go ungodly rolling home. See, a black bark like a state funeral, and Puss takes it into his bubbly-addled brain to board her. Tacking obliquely to her side, I rub my marmalade pate against her shin. How could any duenna, be she never so stern, take offence at such attention to her chargeling from a little cat? As it turns out, this one does. A tissue! A white hand, fragrant as Arabia, descends from the black cloak and reciprocally rubs behind his ears at just the ecstatic spot. Puss lets rip a roaring purr, rears briefly on his high-heeled boots, jig with joy and pirouette with glee. She laughs to see and draws her veil aside. Puss glimpses high above, as it were an alabaster lamp lit behind by dawn's first flush, her face, and she smiling. For a moment, just that moment, you would have thought it was May morning. Come along, come, don't dawdle over the nasty beast, snaps the old hag with the one tooth in her mouth, and warts. She sneezes. The veil comes down. So cold it is, and dark again. It was not I alone who saw her. With that smile he swears she stole his heart. Love. I've sat inscrutably by and washed my face and sparkling dicky with my clever paw, while he made the beast with two backs with every harlot in the city, besides a number of good wives, dutiful daughters, rosy country girls come to sell celery and endive on the corner, and the chambermaid who strips the bed once more. The mayor's wife even shed her diamond earrings for him, and the wife of the notary unshuffled her petticoats, and, if I could, I would blush to remember how her daughter shook out her flaxen plaits and jumped in bed between them, and she not 16 years old. But never the word love has fallen from his lips, nor in nor out of any of these transports, until my master saw the wife of Sir Pantaleone as she went walking out to mass, and she lifted up her veil, though not for him. And now he is half sick with it, and will go to the tables no more for lack of heart, and never even pats the bustling rump of the chambermaid in his new-found maudlin celibacy. So we get our slops left festering for days, and the sheets filthy, and the wench goes banging about bad-temperedly with her broom, enough to fetch the plaster off the walls. I'll swear he lives for Sunday mornings, though never before was he a religious man.
I lost you. At least I lost you.
Oh no. Can
Fine.
everyone still hear me?
Yeah.
I can still hear you.
It was fine.
Yeah, no problems
I
here.
can still hear you.
Oh, sorry, was it just me?
It's okay. I think it was just you.
Plagued. Somebody doesn't want this story read.
No, I'm really enjoying it. Is everybody hearing it a little bit quieter?
Sounds okay.
No, it's all fine for me.
Okay, I don't know if it's my phone then, because suddenly it's very, very quiet. That's fine. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Okay. Here we go again. Where have I got to? I'll swear he lives for Sunday morning, though never before was he a religious man. Saturday nights he bathes himself punctiliously, even, I'm glad to see, washes behind his ears, perfumes himself, presses his uniform so you'd think he had a right to wear it. So much in love, he very rarely panders to the pleasures, even of Onan, as he lies tossing on his couch, for he cannot sleep for fear he miss the summoning bell. Then out into the cold morning, hearkening after that black, vague shape, hapless fisherman for this sealed oyster with such a pearl in it. He creeps behind her across the square. How can so amorous bear to be so inconspicuous? And yet he must, though sometimes the old hag sneezes and says she swears there is a cat about. He will insinuate himself into the pew behind Milady, and sometimes contrive to touch the hem of her garment when they all kneel, and never a thought to his orisons. She is the divinity he's come to worship. Then sits silent in a dream till bedtime. What pleasure is his company for me? He won't eat either. I brought him a fine pigeon from the inn kitchen, fresh off the spit, parfumé avec tarragon, but he wouldn't touch it, so I crunched it up, bones and all. Performing, as ever after meals, my meditative toilette, I pondered thus. 1, he is in a fair way to ruining us both by neglecting his business. 2, love is desire sustained by unfulfillment. If I lead him to her bedchamber, and there he takes his fill of her lily white, he'll be right as rain in 2 shakes, and next day tricks as usual. Then master and his puss will soon be solvent once again, which at the moment very much not so. This Signor Pantaleone employs his only servant but the hag, a kitchen cat, a sleek, spry tabby whom I accost. Grasping the slack of her neck firmly between my teeth, I give her the customary tribute of a few firm thrusts of my striped loins, and, when she got her breath back, she assured me in the friendliest fashion the old man was a fool and a miser, who kept herself on short commons for the sake of the mousing, and the young lady, a soft-hearted creature who smuggled breast of chicken, and sometimes, when the hag dragon governess napped at midday, snatched this pretty kitty out of the hearth and into her bedroom to play with reels of silk and run after trailed handkerchiefs. And when she had as much fun together as 2 Cinderellas at an all-girls ball. Poor lonely lady, married so young to an old dodderer with his bald pate and his goggle eyes and his limp, his avarice, his gore belly, his rheumatics, and his flag hangs all the time at half-mast indeed. And, jealous as he is impotent, Tabby declares he'd put a stop to all the rutting in the world if he had his way, just to certify his young wife don't get from another what she can't get from him. Then, shall we hatch a plot to antler him, my precious? Nothing loath, she tells me the best time for this accomplishment should be the one day in all the week he forsakes his wife and his counting house to ride off into the country to extort most grasping rents from starveling tenant farmers. And she's left all alone then, behind so many bolts and bars you wouldn't believe. All alone, but for the hag. Ah. This hag turns out to be the biggest snag. An iron-plated, copper-bottomed, sworn man-hater of some 60 bitter winters, who, as ill luck would have it, shatters, clatters, erupts into paroxysms of the sneeze at the very glimpse of a cat's whisker. No chance of Puss worming his winsome way into that one's affections, nor for my tabby neither. But, oh my dear, I say, see how my ingenuity rises to the challenge. So we resume the sweetest part of our conversation in the dusty convenience of the coal hole, and she promises me, least she can do, to see the fair, hitherto inaccessible one gets a letter safe if I slip it to her. And slip it to her forthwith I do, though somewhat incommoded by my boots. He spent 3 hours over his letter, did my master, as long as it takes me to lick the coal dust off my dicky. He tears up half a quire of paper, splays 5 pen nibs with the force of his adoration. Look not for any peace, my heart. Having become slave to this beauty's tyranny, dazzled am I by this sun's rays, and my torments cannot be assuaged. That's not the high road to the rumpling of the bedcovers. She's got 1 ninny between them already. Speak from the heart, I finally exhort. All good women have a missionary streak, sir. Convince her her orifice will be your salvation, and she's yours. When I want your advice, Puss, I'll ask for it, he says, all at once hoity-toity. But at last he manages to pen 10 pages. A rake, a profligate, a card sharper, a cashiered officer well on the way to rack and ruin when first he saw, as if it were a glimpse of grace, her face, his angel, his good angel, who will lead him from perdition. Oh, what a masterpiece he penned. Such tears she wept at his addresses, says my tabby friend. Oh, Tabs, she sobs, for she calls me Tabs. I never meant to reach such havoc with a pure heart when I smiled to see a booted cat. And put his paper next to her heart, and swore it was a good soul that sent her his vows, and she was too much in love with virtue to withstand him. If, she adds, for she's a sensible girl, he's neither old as the hills nor ugly as sin, that is. An admirable little note the lady sent him in return, per Figaro here and there. She adopts a responsive yet uncompromising tone. For, says she, how can she usefully discuss his passion further without a glimpse of his person? He kisses her letter once, twice, 1,000 times. She must and will see me. I shall serenade her this very evening. So, when dusk falls, off we trot to the piazza, he with an old guitar he pawned his sword to buy, and most, if I may say so, outlandishly rigged out in some kind of vagabond mountebank's outfit he bartered his gold-braided waistcoat with poor Piero braying and square for. Moonstruck zany. Lovelorn loon he was himself, and even plastered his face with flour to make it white, poor fool, and so ram home his heartsick state. There she is, the evening star with the clouds around her. But such a creaking of carts in the square, such a clatter and crash as they dismantle the stalls, such an ululation of ballad singers and oration of nostrum peddlers and perturbation of errand boys, that though he wails out his heart to her, "Oh, my beloved," why she, all in a dream, sits with her gaze in the middle distance, where there's a crescent moon stuck on the sky behind the cathedral, pretty as a painted stage, and so is she. Does she hear him? Not a grace note. Does she see him? Never a glance. Up you go, Puss. Tell her to look my way. If Rococo's a piece of cake, that chaste, tasteful, early Palladian stumped many a better cat than I in my time. Agility's not in it when it comes to Palladian. Daring alone will carry the day, and though the first story's graced with a hefty caryatid whose bulbous loincloth and tremendous pecs facilitate the first ascent, the Doric column on her head proves a horse of a different colour, I can tell you. Had I not seen my precious tabby crouched in the gutter above me, keening encouragement, even I might never have braved that flying upward leap that brought me, as if Harlequin himself on wires, in one bound to her windowsill. Dear God, the lady says, and jumps. I see she too, sentimental thing, clutches a well-thumbed letter. Puss in Boots! I bow with a courtly flourish. What luck to hear no sniff or sneeze. Where's Hag? A sudden flux sped her to the privy, not a moment to lose. Cast your eye below, I hiss. Him you know of lurks below, in white with a big hat, ready to sing you an evening ditty. The bedroom door creaks open then, and wee through the air Puss goes. Discretion is the better part. And for both their sweet sakes, I did it. The sight of both their bright eyes inspired me to the never before attempted, by me or any other cat, in boots or out of them, the death-defying triple somersault. And a 3-story drop to the ground, what's more, a grand descent. Only the merest trifle winded, I'm proud to say, I neatly land on all my fours, and Tabs goes wild. Huzzah! But has my master witnessed my triumph? Has he my arse? He's tuning up that old mandolin and breaks, as down I come, again into his song. I would never have said, in the normal course of things, his voice would charm the birds out of the trees, like mine. And yet the bustle died for him. The homeward-turning costers paused in their tracks to hearken. The preening street girls forgot their hard-edged smiles as they turned to him, and some of the old ones wept, so they did. Tabs, up on the roof there, prick up your ears, for by its power I know my heart is in his voice. And now the lady lowers her eyes to him and smiles, as once she smiled at me. Then, bang, a stern hand pulls the shutters to. And it was as if all the violets in all the baskets in all of the flower cellars drooped and faded at once. And spring stopped dead in its tracks and might this time not come at all. And the bustle and the business of the square that had so magically quieted for his song now rose up again with the harsh clamour for the loss of love. And we trudge drearily off to dirty sheets and a mean supper of bread and cheese, all I can steal him. But at least the poor soul manifests a hearty appetite now he knows he's in the world and not the ugliest of mortals. For the first time since that fateful morning, sleep sound. But sleep comes hard to Puss tonight. He takes a midnight stroll across the square, soon comfortably discusses a choice morsel of salt cod his tabby friend found among the ashes on the hearth, before our converse turns to other matters. Rats, she says, and take your boots off, you uncouth bugger. Those 3-inch heels wreak havoc with the soft flesh of my underbelly. When we'd recovered ourselves a little, I ask her what she means by those rats of hers, and she proposes her scheme to me. How my master must pose as a rat catcher, and I his ambulant marmalade rat trap. How we will then go kill the rats that ravage Milady's bedchamber the day the old fool goes for it to fetch his rents, and she can have her will of the lad at leisure, for, if there is one thing the hag fears more than a cat, it is a rat, and she'll cower in a cupboard till the last rat is off the premises before she comes out. Oh, this tabby one, sharp as a tack is she. I congratulate her ingenuity with a few affectionate cuffs around the head, and home again for breakfast. Ubiquitous Puss, here, there, and everywhere. Who's your Figaro? Master applauds the rat ploy, but as to the rats themselves, how are they to arrive at the house in the first place, he queries. Nothing easier, sir. My accomplice, a witty soubrette who lives among the cinders, dedicated as she is to the young lady's happiness, will personally strew a large number of dead and dying rats she herself has collected about the bedroom of the said ingenue's duenna, and most particularly that of the said ingenue herself. This to be done tomorrow morning, as soon as Sir Pantaloon rides out to fetch his rents. By good fortune, down in the square, plying for hire, a rat catcher. Since our hag cannot abide either a rat or a cat, it falls to milady to escort the rat catcher, none other than yourself, sir, and his intrepid hunter, myself, to the site of the infestation. Once you're in her bedroom, sir, if you don't know what to do, then I can't help you. Keep your foul thoughts to yourself, Puss. Some things I see are sacrosanct from humour. Sure enough, prompt at 5 in the bleak next morning, I observe with my own eyes the lovely lady's lubberly husband hump off on his horse like a sack of potatoes to take in his dues. We're ready with our sign, Signor Furioso, the living death of rats. And in the leathers he's borrowed from the porter, I hardly recognise him myself, not with the false moustache. He coaxes the chambermaid with a few kisses. Poor deceived girl, love knows no shame. And so we install ourselves under a certain shuttered window with the great pile of traps she's lent us, the sign of our profession. Puss perched atop them, bearing the humble yet determined look of a sworn enemy of vermin. We've not waited more than 15 minutes, and just as well, so many rat-plagued bergamos approach us already and are not easily dissuaded from employing us, when the front door flies open on a lusty scream. The hag, aghast, flings her arms round flinching Furioso. How fortuitous to find him! But at the whiff of me, she's sneezing so valiantly, her eyes awash, the vertical gutters of her nostrils aswill with snot, she barely can depict the scenes inside. Rattus domesticus, dead in her bed and all, and, worse, in the missus' room. So, Signor Furioso and his questing Puss are ushered into the very sanctuary of the goddess. Our presence announced by a fanfare from her keeper on the nose harp. Achoo! Sweet and pleasant, in a morning gown of loose linen, our ingenue jumps at the tattoo of my boot heels, but recovers instantly, and the wheezing, hawking hag is in no state to sniffle more than, "Ain't I seen that cat before?" "Not a chance," says my master. "Why, he's come but yesterday with me from Milano." So she has to make do with that. My Tabs has lined the very stairs with rats. She's made a morgue of the hag's room, but something more lively of the ladies. For some of her prey, she's very cleverly not killed, but crippled. A big black beastie weaves its way towards us over the turkey carpet. Puss pants. Between screaming and sneezing, the hag's in a fine state, I can tell you, though milady exhibits a most praiseworthy and collected presence of mind, being, I guess, a young woman of no small grasp, so perhaps she has a sniff of the plot already. My master goes down, hands and knees, under the bed. "My God!" he cries, "there's the biggest hole here in the wainscoting I ever saw in all my professional career. And there's an army of black rats gathering behind it, ready to storm through. To arms!" But, for all her terror, the hag's loath to leave the master and me alone to deal with the rats. She casts her eye on a silver-backed hairbrush, a coral rosary, twitters, hovers, screeches, mutters, until milady assures her, amidst scenes of rising pandemonium, "I shall stay here myself and see that Signor Furioso doesn't make off with my trinkets. You go and recover yourself with an infusion of friar's balsam and don't come back until I call." The hag departs. Quick as a flash, La Belle turns the key in the door on her and softly laughs, the naughty one. Dusting the fluff from his knees, Signor Furioso now stands slowly upright. Swiftly he removes the false moustache, for no element of the farcical must mar this first delirious encounter of these lovers, must it? Poor soul, how his hands tremble. Accustomed as I am to the splendid feline nakedness of my kind, that offers no concealment of that soul made manifest in the flesh of lovers, I am always a little moved by the poignant reticence with which humanity shyly hesitates to divest itself of its clutter of concealing rags in the presence of desire. So, first, these two smile a little as if to say, "How strange to meet you here," uncertain of a loving welcome still. And do I deceive myself, or do I see a tear, a twinkle in the corner of his eye? But who is it steps toward the other first? Why, she. Women, I think, are of the two sexes the more keenly tuned to the sweet music of their bodies. A penny for my foul thoughts, indeed. Does she, that wise, grave personage in the negligee, think you've staged this grand charade merely in order to kiss her hand? But then, oh, what a pretty blush, steps back. Now it's his turn to take 2 steps forward in the saraband of Eros. I could wish, though, they'd dance a little faster. The hag will soon recover from her spasms, and shall she find them in flagrante? His hand then trembling upon her bosom, hers initially more hesitant, sequentially more purposeful upon his breeches. Then their strange trance breaks, that sentimental havering done. I never saw two fall to it with such appetite. As if the whirlwind got into their fingers, they strip each other bare in a twinkling, and she falls back on the bed, shows him the target, he displays the dart, scores an instant bullseye. Bravo! Never can that old bed have shook with such a storm before. And their sweet, choked mutterings, poor things. I never, my darling, more, and etc., etc. Enough to melt the thorniest heart. He rises up on his elbows once and gasps at me. Mimic the murmur of the rats, Puss. Mask the music of Venus with the clamour of Diana. A hunting we shall go. Loyal to the last, I play catch as catch can with Tab's dead rats, giving the dying the coup de grace and baying with resonant vigour to drown the extravagant screeches that break forth from that, who would have suspected, more passionate young woman as she comes off in fine style. Full marks, master. At that, the old hag comes battering at the door. What's going on? Why for the racket? And the door rattles on its hinges. Peace, cries Signor Furioso. Haven't I just now blocked the great hole? But Milady's in no hurry to don her smock again. She takes her lovely time about it, so full of pleasure gratified her languorous limbs you'd think her very navel smiled. She pecks my master prettily thank you on the cheek, wets the gum on his false moustache with the tip of her strawberry tongue, and sticks it back on his upper lip for him. Then lets her wardress into the scene of the faux carnage with the most modest and irreproachable air in the world. See? Puss has slaughtered all the rats. I rush, purring proud, to greet the hag. Instantly her eyes overflow. Why the bedclothes so disordered? She squeaks, not quite blinded yet by phlegm and chosen from her post for all the other applicants on account of her suspicious mind, even, oh, dutiful, when in grande peur de rat. Puss had a mighty battle with the biggest beast you ever saw upon this very bed. Can't you see the bloodstains on the sheets? And now, what do we owe you, Signor Furioso, for this singular service? 100 ducats, says I, quick as a flash, for I know my master, left to himself, would, like an honourable fool, take nothing. That's the entire household expenses for a month, wails Avarice's well-chosen accomplice. And worth every penny, for those rats would have eaten us out of house and home. I see the glimmerings of sturdy backbone in this little lady. Go, pay them from your private savings that I know of, that you've skimmed off the housekeeping. Muttering and moaning, but nothing for it except do as she is bid, and the furious Sir and I take off a laundry basket full of dead rats as souvenir. We drop it plop in the nearest sewer, and sit down to one dinner honestly paid for a wonder. But the young fool is off his feed again, pushes his plate aside, laughs, weeps, buries his head in his hands, and time again goes to the window to stare at the shutters behind which his sweetheart scrubs the blood away, and my dear Tabs rests from her supreme exertions. He sits for a while and scribbles, rips the page in four, hurls it aside. I spear a falling fragment with a claw. Dear God, he's took to writing poetry. I must and will have her forever, he exclaims. I see my plan has come to nothing. Satisfaction has not satisfied him. That soul they both saw in one another's bodies has such insatiable hunger no single meal could ever appease it. I fall to the toilette of my hinder parts, my favourite stance when contemplating the ways of the world. How can I live without her? You did so for 27 years, sir, and never missed her for a moment. I'm burning with the fever of love. Then we're spared the expense of fires. I shall steal her away from her husband to live with me. What do you propose to live on, sir? Kisses, he said distractedly. Embraces. Well, you won't grow fat on that, sir, though she will, and then more mouths to feed. I'm sick and tired of your foul-mouthed barbs, Puss, he snaps. And yet my heart is moved, for now he speaks the plain, clear, foolish rhetoric of love, and who is there cunning enough to help him to happiness but I? Scheme, loyal Puss, scheme. My wash completed, I step out across the square to visit that charming she who's wormed her way directly into my own hitherto untrammelled heart, with her sharp wits and her pretty ways. She exhibits warm emotion to see me, and, oh, what news she has to tell me! News of a rapt and personal nature that turns my mind to thoughts of the future and, yes, domestic plans of most familial nature. She saved me a pig's trotter, a whole entire pig's trotter the missus smuggled to her with a wink. A feast! Masticating, I muse. Recapitulate, I suggest, the daily motions of Sir Pantaloon when he's at home. They set the cathedral clock by him, so rigid and so regular his habits. Up at the crack, he meagerly breakfasts off yesterday's crusts and a cup of cold water to spare the expense of heating it up. Down to his counting house, counting out his money until a bowl of well-watered gruel at midday. The afternoon he devotes to usury, bankrupting, here a small tradesman, there a weeping widow, for fun and profit. Dinner's luxurious at 4. Soup with a bit of rancid beef or a tough bird in it. He's an arrangement with the butcher, takes unsold stock off his hands in return for a shut mouth about a pie that had a finger in it. From 4:30 until 5:30, he unlocks the shutters and lets his wife look out. Oh, I don't know. While Hag sits behind her to make sure she doesn't smile. Oh, that blessed flux, those precious loose minutes that set the game in motion. And while she breathes the air of evening, why, he checks up on his chest of gems, his bales of silk, all those treasures he loves too much to share with daylight. And if he wastes a candle when he so indulges himself, why, any man is entitled to one little extravagance. Another draught of Adam's ale healthfully concludes the day. Up he tucks beside Mrs., and, since she is his prized possession, contents to finger her a little. He palpitates her hide and slaps her flanks. What a good bargain! Alack, can do no more, not wishing to profligate his natural essence. and so drifts off to sinless slumber amid the prospects of tomorrow's gold. How rich is he? Croesus. Enough to keep 2 loving couples? Sumptuous. Early in the uncandled morning, groping to the privy bleared with sleep, were the old man to place his foot upon the subfusc yet volatile fur of a shadow-camouflaged young tabby cat? You read my thoughts, my love. I say to my master, now you get yourself a doctor's gown, impedimenta, all complete, or I'm done with you. What's this, Puss? Do as I say and never mind the reason. The less you know of why, the better. So he expends a few of the hag's ducats on a black gown with a white collar and his skull cap and his black bag, and, under my direction, makes himself another sign that announces with all due pomposity how he is il famed dottore, aches cured, pains prevented, bones set, graduate of Bologna, physician extraordinary. He demands to know, is she to play the invalid to give him further access to her bedroom? I'll clasp her in my arms and jump out of the window. We two shall both perform the triple somersault of love. You just mind your own business, sir, and let me mind it for you after my own fashion. Another raw and misty morning. Here in the hills, will the weather ever change? So bleak it is and dreary. But there he stands, grave as a sermon in his black gown, and half the market people come with coughs and boils and broken heads, and I dispense the plasters and the vials of coloured water I'd forethoughtfully stowed in his bag, he too agitato to sell for himself. And who knows, might we not have stumbled on a profitable profession for future pursuit if my present plans miscarry? Until dawn shoots his little yet how flaming arrow past the cathedral on which the clock strikes 6. At the last stroke, that famous door flies open once again, and the hag lets rip. Oh, doctor, come quick as you can. Our good man's taken a sorry tumble. And weeping fit to float a smack she is, so doesn't see the doctor's apprentice is most colourfully and completely furred and whiskered. The old booby's flat out at the foot of the stairs, his head at an acute angle that might turn chronic, and a big bunch of keys still gripped in his right hand as if they were the keys to heaven, marked wanted on voyage. And Mrs., in her wrap, bends over him with a pretty air of concern. A fall, she begins when she sees the doctor, but stops short when she sees your servant, Puss, looking as suitably down in the mouth as his chronic smile will let him, humping his master's stock in trade and whoring like a sawbones. You again, she says, and can't forbear to giggle. But the dragon's too blubbered to hear. My master puts his ear to the old man's chest and shakes his head dolefully, then takes the mirror from his pocket and puts it to the old man's mouth. Not a breath clouds it. Oh, sad. Oh, sorrowful. Dead, is he? Sobs the hag. Broke his neck, has he? And she slyly makes a little grab for the keys in spite of the well-orchestrated distress, but Mrs. slaps her hand and she gives over. Let's get him to a softer bed, says master. He ups the corpse, carries it aloft to the room we know full well, bumps pantaloon down, twitches an eyelid, taps a kneecap, feels a pulse. Dead as a doornail, he pronounces. It's not a doctor you want, it's an undertaker. Mrs. has a handkerchief very dutifully and correctly to her eyes. You just run along and get one, she says to Hag, and then I'll read the will. Because don't think he's forgotten you, thou faithful servant. Oh, my goodness, no. So off goes Hag. You never saw a woman of her accumulated Christmases sprint so fast. As soon as they are left alone, no trifling this time, They're at it, hammer and tongs, down on the carpet since the bed is occupé. Up and down his arse, in and out her legs. Then she heaves him up and throws him on her back. Her turn at the grind now, and you think she'll never stop. Toujours discreet, Puss occupies himself in unfastening the shutters and throwing the windows open to the beautiful beginnings of morning, in whose lively yet fragrant air his sensitive nostrils catch the first and vernal hint of spring. In a few moments, my dear friend joins me. I notice already, or is it only my fond imagination, a charming new portliness in her gait, hitherto so elastic, so spring-heeled. And there we sit upon the windowsill, like the two Gainey and protectors of the house. Ah, Puss, your rambling days are over. I shall become a hearthrug cat, a fat and cosy cushion cat. Sing to the moon no more. Settle at last amid the sedentary joys of a domesticity we too, she and I, have richly earned. Their cries of rapture rouse me from this present reverie. The hag chooses, naturellement, this tender if outrageous moment to return with the undertaker in his chiffoned topper, plus a brace of mutes, black as beetles, glum as bailiffs, bearing the elm box between them to take the corpse away in. But they cheer up something wonderful at the unexpected spectacle before them, and he and she conclude their amorous interlude amidst roars of approbation and torrents of applause. But what a racket the hag makes! Police, murder, thieves! Until the master chucks her purse full of gold back again for a gratuity. Meanwhile, I note that sensible young woman, mother naked as she is, has yet the presence of mind to catch hold of her husband's keyring and sharply tug it from his sear, cold grip. Once she's got the keys secure, she's in charge of all. Now, no more of your nonsense, she snaps to Hag. If I hereby give you the sack, you'll get a handsome gift to go along with you, for now, flourishing the keys, I am a rich widow, and here, indicating to all my bare yet blissful master, is the young man who will be my second husband. When the governess found Signor Pantaleone had indeed remembered her in his will, left her a keepsake of the cup he drank his morning water from, she made not a squeak more, pocketed a fat sum with thanks, and, sneezing, took herself off with no more cries of murder neither. The old buffoon briskly bundled in his coffin and buried. Master comes into a great fortune, and Mrs. rounding out already, and they as happy as pigs in pluck. But my tabs beat her to it, since cats don't take much time about engendering. 3 fine, new-minted ginger kittens, all complete with snowy socks and shirt fronts, tumble in the cream and tangle Mrs. Knitting and put a smile on every face, not just their mothers and proud fathers. For Tabs and I smile all day long, and these days we put our hearts into it. So may all your wives, if you need them, be rich and pretty, and all your husbands, if you want them, be young and virile, and all your cats as wily, perspicacious, and resourceful as Puss in Boots.
That's so good!
How fun is that?
That's amazing.
So good.
I love that cat.
Voices were amazing.
That was fun.
I liked your acting, Trevor.
Oh, what was Trevor doing? I missed it.
Oh, you were watching people?
When the first time they had sex, he was doing some acting.
Oh, good.
Did not notice that.
Oh man, we should have had it on gallery view this whole time.
There's too many people for gallery view anyway.
That was
Wonderful.
cool. So there we go. The first ever standalone Sunday story time.
That was so good.
Sundays.
I'm
Thanks,
so glad
Frankie.
you enjoyed it. You're so welcome.
I look forward to more of those.
Well,
Awesome.
I think I'm going to try and do the same thing next Sunday. Like I'll just do another standalone, and I might just do another one from this collection.
Yeah.
Because they're all excellent.
Yeah.
Although none of them I think are quite as much fun as that.
Now really curious to find out what else is in your library.
Yeah. To see what else I can find. I've got
I
some
got
Norse
distracted.
myths.
Hey, Malcolm.
Hey, no, just saying I got distracted to the point of burning the food I was cooking. So that's a good sign. Yeah.
Was it hummus?
Oh my god, Malcolm, I didn't even realise you were here. Hi,
Well,
babe.
I only just put on the speaker. Yeah, it's kidney beans, which I was just boiling so that because they had been dried before. Not very exciting, but it's not a million miles from hummus, in fairness.
Malcolm, you burnt the food that you were boiling.
Yes.
That's extremely flattering for Frankie.
I was going to say, I'll take that.
You need to boil them quite fast. But then I probably left them about 30 minutes longer than I intended to.
Malcolm, we're not taking cooking advice from you right now. Sorry.
I don't have my video on, otherwise I'd show you the picture of the pan. It's an unhappy place.
Take a picture. Take a picture
Okay.
and put it in the Storytime group.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Another.
Do this.
Is it inappropriate to say with so many people how fucking hot you are?
Who?
You.
Thank you so much. Oh my god.
It is beautiful to watch you while you read.
Thank you so much.
Extremely appropriate to say that.
You think that was sexy? You wait until the next one of these bad boys. It's gonna be one of the naughty ones, I think.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I'll put on some lipstick, and then you'll all be sorry.
Yeah.
What time is it? How long was that in the end?
About an hour.
Over an hour.
An hour? Jesus. God. Sorry, Cara. Is Cara still here, or did she?
I'm
did
cooking.
She go?